Tony Soprano, Carmela Soprano, Homer Simpson, Marge Simpson, Jabba the Hutt, Princess Leia. In America, we love it when the man in a couple is a great big fat guy. But several weeks after the tragic events of September 11th,
Oh no.
this progressive film came to theaters and asked the question, what if a lady had a great big fat ass? How do you like our freedoms now? Osama bin Laden. It's funny how much they feel like they have to set up the fact that Jack Black is just into hot women. They have a backstory for it. His father's dying. The doctor comes out and he's like, he's going to be dead. So he goes and talks to his dying dad, and his dad's like, I just want to tell you before I die, my advice is never settle for average women. He says, like your mother, she's average. She's a nightmare. I did not enjoy your mother. You want a classic beauty with the perfect can and great toddies? I think he says it's all right here in the Bible. So also he's on morphine. He's hallucinating. You don't really have to go by what someone says on their deathbed. Can you imagine how annoying it would be if somebody was like, avenge my death or whatever? I guess it's kind of like avenge my choice of women. Don't make the mistake I made. So now he's hanging out with Jason Alexander, who also is not in great shape. All the men in this movie have the bodies of baseball umpires. Jack Black says, I'm finally going out with my neighbor, Jill. So then he goes out with Jill, and Jill's like, well, we went on one date. We're not dating. He works at some office building. Kyle Gass, his partner from Tenacious D, and Laura Keitlinger. So Keitlinger and Gass, which is a better name than Tenacious D for a band. Wouldn't you go see Keitlinger and Gass? Yeah. Also, they're cops. I think Black and Gas. Black and Gas is a better name than the Tenacious. These fucking idiots. Welcome to the stage, Black and Gas. He's depressed. He's like, I didn't get the promotion. Jill broke up with me. And she's like, you only like Jill because of her. She's got cool boobs or whatever. Oh, but then they say you only go for women that are out of your league. And they actually say, because you're not that good looking. Okay. So then he gets stuck in an elevator with inspirational speaker Tony Robbins. Time passes, and now they're just, they've been hanging out for a while. He's been talking to him. And he's like, you know what? You seem like you're a bit of a shallow guy. Shallow Hal. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you only look at people's outsides. So he kind of hypnotizes him. He said, from now on, you're going to see what's inside. Now he's been, I guess, cursed, but I mean, this could be a Stephen King movie, depending on how you look at it. So then he goes to a bar. Jason Alexander's there. They have a friend with spina bifida who walks on all fours. He's like the life of the party. And Jason Alexander's like, ugh, Walt thinks he's so great just because he has spina bifida. So this is someone who, he has a disability, but he's got a great outlook, I guess. So comparing that to being unattractive.
But he's already been cursed, right?
So I guess this guy also has spina bifida on the inside. His ability to see into your soul doesn't cure this guy's spina bifida. And he's saying he just got rich because he sold his company. And he's kind of harassing everybody, but they're like, oh, you, Walt. Like to the waitress, he's like, hey, nice panties. He still manages to harass women. This is the inspirational story of Walt. He doesn't let walking on all fours let him treat women like people. Gwennneth Paltrow's just walking down the street now. He just gets out of his car and he's like, hey, this is how they meet. He just follows her she goes underwear shopping and she's looking at giant underpants. He's seen her as attractive, Gwennneth Paltrow. They go to eat lunch together and she says that she volunteers at the hospital and she's waiting to go back on the Peace Corps. She tells him her last name and he's like, that's my boss's last name. His boss is her father, coincidentally. So then they go to the hospital where she volunteers and there's just all these adorable kids at the hospital, and she's like, I come to the hospital to help children's self-esteem because I'm a good person. And then there's a weird thing where they're like, let's play the kissing game.
What?
You put on lipstick and then you kiss somebody until all the lipstick's gone.
What?
This is the game they're going to play with the kids.
With children?
Yep.
Okay.
Then when they come out, they've got kisses all over their face.
Wait, are these children in the hospital because of their low self-esteem?
Yes. Well, we find out, there's a twist. At first you think that these are just children who hate themselves. I go to the hospital to give kisses to children who hate themselves. Yeah, I guess at first you think it's just children with low self-esteem. So Gwennneth Paltrow comes by, who's very big. She's coming and kissing the children. Is that going to help their self-esteem? They're like, yeah, the kids have been getting worse. This lady keeps coming by and kissing the kids. Really, they're doing it for her self-esteem. Yeah, they have a program where sick children let a lonely woman come in and kiss them. And then we tell her it's for our self-esteem. But really, we hate it. But we let her come in and she puts on the lipstick. She doesn't really have anyone in her life. Johnny Depp was going through a real rough patch for a while there. Yeah. And I think that's when he was dressing up like a pirate and visiting children. Do you think they were like, just act like you know the movie? You're 5. You're not going to know the fucking movie that came out 20 years ago, but act like you love the pirate. We think his wife's hitting him. We don't know what's going on. He's an alcoholic. Just pretend like you love the pirate. He's hanging out with his best friend, Jason Alexander. Jason Alexander says, maybe I'm not as mature as you, but I've got a bigger willy. Which made me think, if he looked at someone's penis, would he see the penis you deserve to have? He would see the inner penis. Yeah. So now we have a series of pretty funny jokes. Okay. They're doing a milkshake, and then he turns away for a second. She drinks the whole thing. They're paddling a boat. His end of the boat is out of the water because her end is so heavy. They're at a pool. She jumps in the pool. All the water goes out of the pool. It puts out a guy's grill. And then there was a child in the pool, and they're like, oh shit, where's the kid? And then the kid's in a tree. Yeah, then they had to send that kid to the low self-esteem area of the hospital. And then they do have sex. She comes out in underwear. She takes off her panties and throws them at him. And then what hits him are giant panties. But then he doesn't care.
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't. Right?
If you're about to have sex and magic starts happening, you're like, we'll figure this out later, man. Jason Alexander goes and finds Tony Robbins. And then he's like, you need to take off your hypnosis. He tells him the phrase that will undo the hypnosis. He's talking to her in a restaurant. Gwyneth Paltro is saying, I think I'm going to go back to the Peace Corps, but I love you. So then he gets a call, I guess, in the lobby. And it's Jason Alexander. And he says the phrase, Shallow Hal needs a gal. The spell is broken. The rest of the movie, for a while, it's kind of shot like a horror movie where he just keeps seeing her back. And then Jason Alexander comes in and grabs him. And Jason Alexander, now he wants to tell him the whole thing. He's like, look, here's what happened. Now they're back in his apartment. And he's saying, well, what am I going to do? He's like, I was in love with her. I don't care if anyone else can see it. I just want to be able to see the woman that I was in love with again. Well, he's like, when you put it that way, I really have screwed you. I'm sorry. We just need to get Tony Robbins to hypnotize you again. Because Jason Alexander's like, whatever you do, don't look at her now, because then you'll never love her again. And then she knocks on the door, and he's like, oh shit, I can't look at her. And then he puts Vaseline on his eyes. And he answers the door. He's like, yeah, my eyes were bothering me. He just sees a vague, blurry impression of her. Again, it's like a horror movie because it's just you're not really seeing the person.
Vaseline on his eyes?
Yeah, he just has Vaseline on his eyes.
Didn't the Farrelly brothers also do There's Something About Mary?
Oh, yeah.
Come in the hair.
So you think it would have been better if he'd been like, hey, quick, come in my eyes. Wait, I can't look at her or I'll fall. Quick, come in my eyes. He's like, well, you want me to do something about Mary in your eyes? What would you do for love? Now the boss is like, you've been ghosting my daughter. He says she's going back to the Peace Corps, leave her alone. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go to her going away party. Then he sees her for the first time and he says, oh my God, you're beautiful. He says, I'm sorry, I love you. And he says, I want to go with you to, she's going to some poor country with the Peace Corps. And he's like, I'll go with you to the Peace Corps. He realizes he loves her, and they do end up getting back together, but first he goes to look for her at the hospital. And this is kind of the most sort of shocking scene in the movie. There's this little girl, and we see her from behind, and she's like, oh, hey, Hal. And he goes, do I know you? And she said, yeah, it's me. And she says, Cadence. And then he sees a sign that he didn't notice before that says Pediatric Burn Unit.
Oh, no. So do you think he just didn't see the sign that said burn unit before, or the sign got prettied up as well?
Yeah, did the sign just say cute kids? With low self-esteem? The movie's trying to say that people who are overweight are a lot like children who have been burned. They've both been hurt by stoves and ovens. Their bodies are different because of cooking. Campfires. Whether it's the fire itself or the s'mores. If we hadn't invented fire, we'd all be skinny and adorable. This is what the movie's saying. Are they saying that big women are the burnt children of ladies? What is this movie? That's what they're saying. I didn't write the goddamn movie. Can you imagine how hot he would think a burnt big lady was? That'd be like Cindy Crawford having a goddamn Pepsi, baby. The past was doing its best.
That's the theme song.
Leave them alone. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. They were doing their best.